Think that's working. Think it's working. Freaking towel over here. Hey, everybody. I think I'm just going to play for a little bit. All right, and the first thing I should do is say hello. Hello, Paul. Hello, Charlie. I'm trying something here. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm trying it. That's not entirely true. I kind of know a little bit about what I'm doing. I got a bunch of gizmos. First of all, how is the sound? Does it sound okay? Can you hear the guitar? Is it a little buzzy? It sounds a little buzzy to me. I'm not really crazy about it. But is it loud enough? It doesn't look like it's clipping on the old thingamadoo that I'm looking at here. So I'm looking at a thing. Little buzzy. Yeah, I think that's the nature of the thing that I'm using. I'll show you that in a second. It's a little hot. I like it. It's a little hot. A little hot. All right. We'll turn the instrument part of that down. I'm definitely using a fuzz, so it should be buzzy, but it shouldn't be sizzly. I don't like that sound. It's not what it sounds like when it's going through an amp. And I'm doing this. I'm using the Radial JDX Direct Drive, which is what I use for corporate band stuff when I'm using in-ears. So I don't have an amp going in the room. But maybe that's just the wrong way to do it. Maybe I should just do the amp in the room. It's what I usually do for Skype lessons, and it works just fine. So maybe I'll just do that. But I'm not digging the sound of it, just like that. But I have other options of how to do that stuff. So bring the microphone a little bit closer. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a bummer that that's not going to be great for that. I think it works for the corporate band thing. Maybe it's not great in my ears, but I also have the full band, so that little bit of sizzly thing probably helps it cut in my ears, which is good. And then for the rest of the room, it's actually going through speakers, and it sounds great going through speakers. Um, Plus, the sound guy can tame off a little bit of that high end. So, yeah, this will not be the board for this. Exactly. But anyway, voice sounds crystal clear. Excellent. The actual audio interface I'm using is this cool. I'll show it to you because most musicians should have this. This is a great podcasting thing. This Samson G Track Pro. I saw that Pete Thorn was using one a while ago, and he just sounded great when he was demonstrating some stuff. And I forget the episode that I saw him doing that. He may have been coming direct out of his DAW, or he uses a lot of aux, the universal audio aux and stuff like that. And I have that. I may try that on another webcast, as well as I also have a universal audio Apollo, which I would just need to hook up a different microphone. So this is sort of a one-stop shop for this. I also have another means of doing this whole thing where I could just use I could use my iPad rather than my computer. Oh, no. I don't necessarily even have to do that. I could use that Bias 2 that I have that I've been beta testing for Positive Grid. I could use that. And I've used the original one for a long time too. So I could do that. So it's good to know the voice thing is good. So the podcasting part of this, on point. Excellent. I won't do this for too long, but here's kind of my idea. Everybody's been webcasting. I've not been webcasting. It's been whatever, like 680 months of sitting around, not gigging. I've actually lost count of how many gigs I've lost, how much work I've not had. So super miss playing. That's a big deal. I kind of just want to just use this as a way to check in with everybody. I was kind of using Instagram Live to do a bit of that stuff. And then I just saw so many people online. Everybody's live streaming. I'm just hesitant. I don't think it's healthy for everybody to just be online all the time. And I didn't want to be another competing thing. Not like I think the whole world is going to beat a path to my door to watch my live streams, but the temptation to just look for more stuff online to do is not, I don't think that's the best thing that we can be doing with our time right now. Books are good. Talk to people. That's good. Go for walks. That's good. Actually practice and work on stuff. So my idea was, and I probably will do some regular live streams or actually play some tunes. And I may do like a little private test or something like that where I can work out the details of how that sounds. That's the main thing, is like the sound of all of this stuff is important because it's music, I think I've seen some live streams like with Tom Bukovac up in Nashville where he's just hanging out in his garage, and I think he's just using his iPhone, and he sounds great. And obviously he's a great player, but he's just got whatever amp in the room, guitar in his hands. He's drinking a beer or a coffee, which this is the second cup. So maybe that's a simple, more elegant way of doing this kind of thing too, where it doesn't have to be the greatest of audio quality. But I do need to figure that out with if I'm going to actually do a live stream show. I'm trying to design something for that. I've seen some people that go online and they do live streams for 2 hours, an hour, something like that. I think it might be cooler to do some short and sweet live streams where I just choose to work on a handful of songs, maybe, a song to 3 songs or something, a very short set where I perform and then do a little hangout afterwards and try to keep it to an hour. That way anybody who wants to see a performance can hop in and watch that, and then they can go on about their daily lives, hanging out in their domicile or wherever they're stuck. that kind of a thing, and it'd be archived online. Because I've been thinking about doing some playthrough videos too, because I have a lot of stuff. I never did full playthrough videos for everything on 205. I never did a playthrough video for Wherever You Are. I never did. I did one playthrough video as a demonstration for that orange amplifier's backband guitar DI pedal, which would be great for this kind of thing too. But I did play a Dreaded Marco tune that way, but I've got plenty of Dreaded Marco tunes that I could use for that stuff. Yeah, I agree, Charlie. Like, I have so many friends doing live streams that, I will watch a live stream. Like last night I watched, it wasn't even a live stream. Metallica has been posting archived video footage, and last night they showed it's a concert. Forget the venue that they played at, but they're up in Chicago. It's like the first time they played in Chicago, and some of that footage was in the Cliff 'Em All video. But they posted almost the entire set from 1983, and like it's rough around the edges. You can tell they've been drinking. Kirk does a thing where during his solo, like he holds the guitar over the crowd, and the crowd ends up taking his guitar off of him, and like there's a whole thing. His guitar solo gets cut short, and all kinds of things. But that was an hour long, and I watched all of that. And I'm a huge Metallica fan, so I'm interested in the history of that stuff. And like that's the Kill 'Em All tour. It's a great. Trying to pick this up a little bit there. I see a little bit more of my face. So I'm interested in stuff like that, but there's plenty of modern footage where it's like, Metallica puts on a 2.5, 3 hour show now. As much as I love Metallica, I'm not going to watch repeated shows, even though they have a pretty vast set list of all of that stuff. So that's not a thing I'm necessarily interested in doing long form things. So I'm the same way. Like I get lost watching that stuff for anything more than a few minutes. So just kind of been using my time to check out how am I consuming video stuff and how would I want to contribute to that? Like, 'cause some stuff, if it's a problem, it's cool. Like I've seen some cool stuff where like Angel Vivaldi has done some long live streams that have been like 8 hours. Yeah, I know he did one, and I watched most of it for the, back in all the way back in January of 2020 when we had other problems, like the entire continent of Australia was on fire just about. He did a live stream for that, and I think that was good. And he raised some money for a good cause. Mary Spender has done one over in the UK that was like 24 hours long, and like God bless her, like that was intense to do. And she raised some money for, I think it was for NHS or maybe it was for some hospice care. I don't remember exactly, but she raised a lot of money for that. I'm not a good candidate to do anything like that, so I'm going to spare everybody the the even interested in me doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, Epiphany will get done. Totally do that tune. And like kind of the thing that struck me when I think about doing live streams or playthroughs, like there are tunes like Lavender that never get performed. I would really only be able to play a tune like Lavender on a long headlining set. And that just hasn't happened in a long time. So that's a tune that never gets played. Also would need to have someone like Eric Frampton playing in the band, to at least have some piano going. And I know a lot of cats play to tracks when they do live, and I could create tracks out of my Pro Tools sessions to accompany myself to play along with. I don't necessarily want to do that either. Not that I think there's anything wrong with it. The last tours that I did with Stuck Mojo, we carried tracks on a mini disc recorder. We didn't run a Pro Tools session. We just had the tracks that we were going to use. And they were sound effects for tracks, a click track for the drummer. It wasn't like we had a lot of production on there. It was just enough to keep us in time with the drummer. So he had that in his ears. So we knew we weren't going to be rushing tempos on, getting overly excited. And a little bit of effects, some percussion stuff that we wouldn't necessarily want, but just kind of sounded cool to have pad out the band. That was a cool thing. But other than that, for me personally, I like live. I like improvisation. You guys know that. You guys have all played with me. I like the opportunity for things to be different. And I think music should capitalize on those opportunities to especially in rock music. You should ad lib a little bit. If this was a classical thing where I was playing with an orchestra, I still wouldn't play the tracks. I would actually hire a musician over there, give the bassoon player some on that. So anyway, my thinking was just trying to create more content because there is a little bit of a dearth of that. I kind of want to reach out because I've not been talking to people either. I've just kind of been hanging out here, kind of dealing with my own madness over this stuff. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I'm okay, but I don't have a lot of motivation to do stuff. Certainly there's no gig work to get, other than creating, online content, which that was the whole last 10 minutes of me talking about my thoughts on that. But teaching has been a good thing. Teaching online has been really more of a side income for the last few years while I've been doing other things. And I love teaching and I'll always teach, but I haven't been concerned with having a large roster of students in a very long time. But thank goodness for the small roster of students that I do have, because it's allowed me to transition into this phase where maybe my teaching was supplemental income that was helping me buy things for my recording studio, or help me keep stocked up in strings, things like that, consumable stuff, batteries. Not that I make so little money teaching. It's a decent side income, but things that I don't have to worry about coming out of my budget. I don't worry about buying those things. When I need strings, I just order bulk strings from Dean Markley, or when I need batteries, or if I want to check out new pedals or new whatever. It's been nice to have that as a side income, as well as I've been doing a lot of corporate band stuff the last 3 years. So any of the more regular gigging work I've done around town, where it's been more of a either sideman thing, or it's been a New Yankee All Stars thing, or hybrids, or running the jam at Darwin's when they were still open. Those gigs paid cash, so I've just been putting a little bit of cash to the side, so that's not something I've needed for regular bill paying and regular budget stuff. So it's been nice, but now I've had to sort of refigure how to stretch my side income with teaching into my regular income. So hopefully you guys are doing all right with that stuff too. Money is certainly an issue, and that's another thing that has dawned on me as I'm watching everybody do live stream stuff. Is we're preaching to a crowd of people who are looking for entertainment, but I understand a lot of people are home right now, not working, not bringing in income, and there's only going to be a limited time where we can go begging for tips and stuff like that, because people are going to run out of money. People need to buy food and pay their rent or their mortgages, their electricity bills, all of that stuff. Like the regular expense of our civilized life has not gone away. So I hesitate to ask people to part with dollars at a time when I hesitate to part with dollars on things, because my economic situation has certainly been devastated this year, and I know a lot of people's have. But that being said, I do think I would be remiss to not use this as a platform for a few things. Whether it's if you look in the description, I wrote down everything that I just played through, or at least everything that's on this little pedal board, everything I'm using for this live stream, at least for this time, because this one's a test. I'll probably do this a few times. I'll test this a bunch with different gear. I like the Samson G Track Pro, though. It's good. So anyway, you can see what's up with that. I did put links for whatever, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. If anybody feels it's in their heart to donate for such a thing, a tip, that would be greatly appreciated. But there's also links to where you can download some of my music on iTunes, which I know you, Charlie, and you, Paul, I know you guys have that stuff. So no worries about that from you guys. Please, don't. I know you guys are musicians and family guys, so I'm not guilting people into giving. I'm okay. I could always do better. I'm certainly not making many profits. I'm kind of right at the line of, I'm bringing in enough money from teaching to not completely deplete my emergency fund, all at a shot. That's kind of been the thing. So I recommend doing things like that. So like, I'm definitely going through my savings. That is happening. Just not as fast. uh, at a certain point, I guess we're all kind of looking this with our gig culture, is that I have, like, all of my work is kind of evaporated. I still have gigs on the calendar for, there's a couple this summer. I think that's optimistic. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll be able to do that work. And then September kind of breaks open again if we're going to be able to do this work. But all the corporate band work that I do, it's all large events. They're large gatherings of people, weddings, uh, uh, other types of corporate things, debutante balls. I said balls, but anyway, like large gatherings of people. I don't know. Like I think it's hopeful that we'll be able to get back to that kind of work since it's already on the books. I would love to do that. That would certainly put me in a better place than I started this year now. But if not, I'm going to have to capitulate because by that point, I will have run out of my emergency fund and have to start making some pretty serious decisions about things. And I certainly don't want to start selling gear because it's a bad time to sell gear too, because I'd have to sell it for next to nothing. Let's see what's in the chat. Let's see what you guys have to say about it. Looper pedal for percussion with the wave drum. You know, there are a few different looper things out there. I would direct you to, I have a Ditto looper, a TC Electronic Ditto looper. I have the mini one that I usually keep on my small board for lessons and for when I do go to trade shows and do demonstrations at booths and stuff. That's the one button one. That may not be good for you. They have a larger one with 2 or 3 buttons that might be good. TC Electronic makes great stuff. I also have an older Boomerang that I bought from Dixie Duncan. He bought the more modern version that's a smaller footprint. It has more internal memory, so you can loop over longer sections and you can do A and B sections. Reach out to Dixie Duncan. And for anybody watching this stream later, if you don't know, Dixie Duncan is one of my very best friends, incredible guitar player, songwriter, singer. We have a band together called The Tragedy Strategy, which we haven't played in a little while. It's going to be a little while before we play again. But Dixie and I also do solo, not solo, but acoustic duo gigs and stuff like that. But he's incredible with the looping stuff. So, and he's been doing some live streams as well on Facebook. I don't know. I'm not sure if he's using YouTube, but certainly look for him on Facebook. I know he's been live streaming there a lot. So that's a good place to check him out doing stuff. And ask Dixie, reach out to him and ask him what else he's been using. I remember one time, because he's been doing some looping festivals, and I know Katie Martin does some looping festival stuff too. And I want to say it was a year, maybe 2 years ago. Everything's starting to get a little fuzzy. I went over to hang out. Katie and Dixie had gotten together. They had both just gotten this device that is a looper pedal device thing. It's almost more like a little recording interface. And I literally know nothing about this stuff. So I would reach out to both Katie Martin and Dixie Duncan about this. It's got 4 or 5 buttons on it. It's got like a half speed thing. It may have some effects, like some stuttery effects. Like it's for DJ looper craziness. And it's really cool. And I've seen both of them do some really cool stuff with it. Charlie, that for you might be an interesting thing to do because it's got like rubber touch buttons and it's got an interface on it. So I know when Katie was using it, she'll leave it up on a stand where she doesn't manipulate it on the floor. She manipulates it with her hand. So with the wave drum, that might be a cool thing. I don't think it was super expensive, but it's certainly not the least expensive option. But I think it's a very simple to learn device. Like it works intuitively the way that you kind of want it to. And I do believe it works with MIDI as well. So if you're doing stuff with the wave drum, you could probably link them up in that particular way. And I think that would be good. If you didn't want to do that, if you're computer savvy at all, I know a lot of guys like Ableton for doing live looping. And you can pre-save samples and stuff like that. And I know obviously you can get just a simple MIDI interface that would allow you to connect your wave drum to your computer. If you don't have recording software, Ableton is not that expensive for software. You could look into that or some other recording software that would allow you to do some stuff on the fly like that. Might be a little cumbersome with the free version of Pro Tools or GarageBand or other things. But I think Ableton is set up a little bit differently to be easier to use on the fly that way. I'd look into that. You don't necessarily need to get an all-in-one interface, but I think the attraction to that is it's a pretty cool idea. But if you've already got a computer, just getting Ableton might be a good way to save some money with that. I've never used it. I've only seen people use it. Josh Sattler, when I was recording with him, I know he was using it a lot for creating song beds and things like that. It was pretty cool. Oh, what are you telling me about my unstable connection? No, my connection is stable again. Yeah, I think that is good. I think if I had a moderator that could work, like certainly I don't have, the trouble that professional YouTubers have where they've got, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and they're going to have now. And his channel's great. I almost never jump in the chat with him or Pete Thorn has a lot of people on his. I'll watch his Sunday chats. I almost never jump in the chat because it's just, I know it's going by too fast. So I just kind of watch as we go. What's going to happen with this economy is venues, just where to play. I think we're going to have, life is changing. It's going to change. It's a natural consequence of life. But anyway, before I will continue with that, I will say the last thing is for everybody watching this in post, the second cup, this idea is really about, and I kind of started all that talk about my lack of motivation for doing stuff. Been practicing a little bit. I did one gig a couple of weeks ago with John McKnight way up in North Georgia on a patio. So social distancing was in play. Everybody was very safe about it. I did sneak a hug in with John McKnight because he's my brother and, some hugs are worth the risk. I'll say that. And miss him so much. And I miss everybody so much. So it was, and after a few months of really not being around much of anybody at all, like I've seen my sister a couple times, like once right when all of this started, and then once recently after my birthday, because she wanted to do a birthday dinner for me. So it's been a little bleak with the people interaction. Thank God for Skype lessons because it actually keeps me talking to people online without me feeling like I'm being desperate going on Instagram Live or Facebook Live or whatever. But this is going to be a part of that. Is that I do realize that out of sight, out of mind, and I'm kind of disappearing just by the thing. But anyway, the second cup. The idea is I need to practice. I need to be accountable for my things. I have a lot of music to work on, and no surprise, no spoiler warnings here. Like if you watch some of my other talking live streams that I've done here on YouTube and Instagram and stuff, I've talked a lot about my depression over the last few years and how that's been affecting me. I had stopped working on a record 4 years ago now. That was a mammoth undertaking, and I was trying to use that writing as a way of working through my depression, and it was getting on top of me. And I thought the best thing to do is not force that, step away from that, get a little presence of mind, get a little clarity, all of those things. Thank God for the corporate band because that's kept the guitar in my hands for these last several years too, because my motivation to continue working on music has been far and few between. This year I was feeling better. I stopped working at a warehouse. I was ready to jump back into doing some work. I was feeling better about things. And then I opened for Tony McAlpine, my good friend that I hadn't seen since we toured Europe together in 2012. So I worked up a bunch of tunes off of the new record that had never been performed before and performed them. And then here we are. And I have all this time to work in the studio to do this stuff, but just didn't feel like I wanted to, after taking so much time off, I didn't want to work on the record motivated by fear. I think that's a bad thing. And I'm not judging anybody else that's working however they're working, but I felt like in me, I was about to do a whole bunch of stuff motivated by fear. So I thought it was better to take my time and think about that stuff. So the second cup is the idea that I'm not going to do anything before I've had a cup of coffee. So I've been limiting myself and rationing coffee because coffee is expensive. Good coffee is really expensive. So I get up and I have a cup of coffee, and then usually I try to play for a little bit, and maybe not practice like crazy, but do some warm ups and make sure I get my hands on the guitar and stuff. Because I mentioned the gig with John, I hadn't really aggressively in a while, and it was an acoustic gig. And after 3 hours, I had holes in my fingers because I just wore the pads off of my callus so much. So can't let that happen. Even for, I have to be able to play for students and things like that. And if I'm going to work on music, I probably want to not have gaping wounds on my hands. So holding myself accountable, making myself play guitar. So the idea was have a cup of coffee, kind of get everything set up to a way where I could just jump on and kinetically just play for a little bit, for a few minutes, which I played very shortly. And I don't think I'm going to play any more today because I'm not really happy with that sound. Although there's some things I could probably do about that. Like I could turn that down and not use the fuzz and get. Nah, still don't like it. And I'm hearing too much of the guitar through the microphone here. So that's another issue. Maybe there's a lavalier situation that I've got that I can work on that. So anyway, that's the idea. Warm up with my second cup of coffee and do it early enough in the day. And I know I started late, but I may have slept till noon because today's a day off for me. So I may have stayed up and watched Star Wars. Can't judge me. We could talk about Star Wars anytime on this channel too. I follow a bunch of YouTubers who talk about Star Wars stuff, and there's gold in them there hills. I won't start a second channel. Just, if you want to talk about cats, you want to talk about Star Wars, you want to talk about guitars, you want to talk about theory, whatever. I'll talk about all that stuff. Anyway, let's see. What else have I missed in the chat? Sorry, I keep looking over here because my camera's right here and the chat's way over here. So maybe I should move the camera over here for next time too. Yeah, a good interface is good to have as well. Highly recommend being able to record at home. I can't stress that enough. That's going to be a really important thing for all of us. Drums obviously are complicated because, acoustic instruments in a room. How many inputs are you wanting to use? I think you can do a lot of tracking with a simple 4-piece kit and a couple of overheads without worrying so much about what the sound of the room is. Just do a little bit closer miking. There's also some fun stuff that you can do. This is just talking about microphones. I would research the Recorder Man method of recording drums. There's also the Glenn Johns, where both of those are minimal miking, like 2 or 3 microphones, and amending from there. The less microphones you use, the more open the sound is, the more dependent on the sound of the room that your drums are set up in. So that's a consideration. Obviously, less microphones, less inputs on a recording interface. I would recommend a couple of things, Charlie. Depending on your budget, there are lots of things online that you can get. Certainly would you go on sweetwater.com and start looking at all those things in their price ranges. Focusrite has some really good things. The Scarlett is pretty good. I would recommend getting one that at least has SPDIF or SPDIF, however you want to say that, or light pipe ADAT connectivity. The reason I say that is that will allow you to connect another microphone preamp to that interface. And I think most of the Scarletts that are going to have at least 2 to 4 inputs on them. So that's a good place to start with that. Then from there, I have my old Digi 002 Pro Tools rack had 8 inputs on it. And then I also bought Behringer, bought Midas some years ago. So they now make I forget the model of it, but it is a 8 microphone pre. They're all Midas mic pre's in there. They sound decent, and you can connect through ADAT or SPDIF into a recording interface. So that was a inexpensive way for me to get some decent sounding, just clear, transparent microphone pre's, where if I need to record a whole band, I can expand my inputs. That's a simple, cost-effective way of doing that. I think that Behringer brand new was less than $200. Might have even been substantially less, like maybe $150 or something like that. Used, you can probably find them on the market for obviously less than that. Highly recommend that. So whatever audio interface you get, I would recommend looking for something that does have that kind of connectivity to where you can expand it when you can afford it to get something like that Behringer Midas mic pre situation. And maybe send me a text or a direct message, and I'll when I'm looking at my rack, I'll shoot you the name of that thing. Other than that, if you can afford it, I am a massive Universal Audio fan. I have an Apollo Twin Quad as an interface that I got for traveling. And it sounds so good and it is so powerful that it has kind of taken the place of my main recording setup. And arguably, the Digi 002 is a Polaroid camera at this point. It still sounds great. It still functions great. I've made plenty of records on that thing, and I can continue to make records on that thing. So it's great. But this thing, even with less inputs, is fantastic. The thing with the Apollo culture is that it has quad core processing in it. So anything that I need to do with Universal Audio plugins, it does all of that processing on the Apollo. So it takes that CPU burden off of my computer. So that's been a very good thing in my world too. I think just immediately putting that in place leveled up the sounds of my recording and what I'm capable of doing at home, which is great. And it's super portable, and it has light pipe. It has 2 microphone inputs on it. It has a high Z input, so for guitar players, it's great. It really is a wonderful, wonderful thing. You don't have to get the quad core. I got that because I could afford it at the time, because I wanted to get the most processing power I could possibly afford. And I also found that on Sweetwater, they will sell open box things. It was either used for demonstrations there at their showroom up in Illinois, or something, but it was in perfect condition, but the box had been open. They had used it for a demonstration, so they had knocked a little bit of money off of the cost of that. So it allowed me to get essentially a brand new piece of gear for about the same price as I would have gotten the next model down or something like that. It was close. So I went ahead and bit the bullet. So look for that opportunity as well. If you're looking to get something, because A to D converters are everything. If you can afford that, I'm trying to remember, even at that discounted price, it was not cheap. I mean, it was $1,200 or $1,300. But for me, it was worth that because I'm trying to make records at home. I can't afford to go to proper recording studios. And I think as the world continues to change, as it has been changing, not that we don't need to go to proper recording studios, but technology is catching up. We're able to do so much more at home. So look into that too. But I know Focusrite has some lesser expensive options. But definitely look for something that has light pipe, ADAT, or SPDIF connectivity. It's all kind of the same thing, but look for that so that you can, for a couple $100 more, expand that. There are also some larger interfaces, but they may only have, 6 to 8 inputs on them as well. And they're probably going to be a little bit more expensive right out of the gate. And I think you can probably do everything with it that you need to record a drum set with 8 inputs. I think you can do that. You may not be able to do, a Neil Peart size drum kit at that. But that's important. Another thing that I would tell you, Charlie, that I think is very important that a lot of guys don't think about this. Whatever recording software you have or don't have, like whatever you get into with that, learn how to program drums. Get something like Steven Slate's drum stuff. There's another one called Get Good Drums. Modern and Massive is one that I've heard a lot of friends have been getting. Learn how to program drums with some of the software. Because for guys like me, I can program drums pretty well. And sometimes I just need to do it. And you could offer those services, and you could work any hour of the night in your house, quiet, headphones, loud, whatever you want to do, and be able to have a real drummer program real drums with real fills the way a drummer would play that stuff. You can get some good side work doing that kind of stuff for songwriters. Not that I wouldn't have done the full drum programming, but when I did that last song for Fozzy, that Wormwood tune, I did not use drum programming software. I just placed actual samples in my writing session. because the idea was always going to be that Frank Fonseray was going to record the drums for that. So I just put in, these are the parts that are written, and I left a lot of room for drum fills and things like that. But for all of the time shifts and metric modulations and stuff like that, basically what's on the hi-hat, what's on the ride, where are the crashes, and what are all the kick and snare patterns, because it's metal, so all the right hand guitar shit needs to be tied pretty tight to the drum parts. I did that, and then in the end of production, we ended up having my friend Rennie Carroll over in the UK, who was with the band Forever Never. He actually took that out of my session and then created drum programming out of that for that session. So you can do a lot of stuff with that. If I had known earlier on that we were going to have to go that route, I probably would have just programmed the drums fully myself because I had the time to do it. But I prefer to have a human being playing on everything anytime. But if anybody didn't know, like Wormwood is actually drum programming on that. And that's between my drum writing and what Rennie Carroll finished up on that. So yeah, that's my thought on that stuff. Let's see. Everybody loves a Plinky Strat. Not playing through an amp, just calling through a microphone. A little Frank Zappa-esque improv for you. Let's see. Yeah. Let's catch up about that. But that's kind of what I want this chat to be about, to have conversations with folks. And at this point, 40 minutes in, I didn't even mean to go this long, but for anybody who's interested in that stuff, those are my 2 cents on that. Let's see. Yeah, Paul was there, man. Thank you so much about that. Like, I was really excited about that. I actually have video of the whole thing and audio. I had Sam Abernathy record that at the board, with the idea that I would release that set online, and I may still do that. My initial feeling was that I played like a guy who had not performed his own music in a few years, and that's I think I felt good in the moment. I think the set went well. I felt really good about that. But then listening back, it definitely did not have what I would consider a good performance quality to it on my own behalf. Like I think Dennis Cover did a great job on bass. I think Eric Sanders did a great job on drums. I did not do a great job on guitar. I was a little scattered, and I think and nervous, and that comes through in my playing. And it felt good to play that set, but I feel like releasing that, and I don't know. Times are hard right now. At least I have it archived forever and ever. Maybe I'll release that at some point for a fun watch. I think it's okay to perform stuff, and everybody who was there, I think, thank you. It has been very complimentary of the new songs. But I don't want to necessarily release what I would consider to not even, imperfect performances are okay. My guitar playing was sloppy enough to where it's a bit beyond imperfect. So I wouldn't necessarily want, that to be everybody's first impression in perpetuity online, to put up that way. Maybe I could do something where I could, do like a live stream, watch it, and we, maybe I can get some tips for that I can put towards the recording budget or something, and then take it down or make it private to where it's just not accessible. That way it's not archived. But even now, like, you can record stuff off the internet all the time. You don't even, whether I leave it up or not, people record it if they want it. I did see the Boba Fett stuff for Mandalorian, and that may be season 3 too. They're being a little bit cheeky with that, but I know Boba Fett is coming into the story at some particular point. Yeah, the electronic kit is a very good thing for that too. Yeah, Steven Slate's really good for dropping in samples on things. But definitely get kinetic with that stuff. Even if you like being a drummer, being able to use an electronic kit and then record the MIDI and then go back and edit that stuff. Like, just learning how to edit MIDI is, I've needed it. Like, we all have to do it. And I use it for a lot of different things, like my keyboard skills. I took piano lessons when I was a kid very seriously, had to keep up my piano studies in college. That's a requirement to get a degree at a proper music school. But I'm a terrible pianist. And if you ever see me, at a keyboard anywhere, some whiskey was probably involved or way too much coffee. So for me, a lot of times, I'm faster because I write music very well. And I'm pretty adept at using software like Finale for writing out scores and things. If I'm working inside of a session, oftentimes it's easier for me either to take, Sibelius is kind of built into Pro Tools now. It's either easier for me to go ahead and write the music into the score because it will automatically turn that into MIDI. Or also I can just write inside of the MIDI editor and write out music that way, whether I'm doing string parts or like a synth bass line or something like that. If I'm not going to play the part myself, um, being able to write the MIDI in there, and then it will transcribe it if I ever need to print a chart for somebody. I do find that the score editing capabilities of what's inside of Pro Tools, at least the version of Pro Tools I have, which admittedly is, I think you still need a gas lamp and a fucking hand cranked lawnmower to keep it working because it's so old, like me. But it's not great for editing the score. Like if I was going to publish a score of something, if I were going to do that, I would try to get a little bit smarter about how to integrate Finale and its MIDI extraction from scores that I write to import into a session. All right. Well, this has been fun, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you for helping me with this test. Sorry I didn't play more, but this is not the way to do that. I'm glad at least the audio for the vocal sounds good. That's major props for the Samson G Track Pro. But this mini pedal board is just not going to be the winner for that. I'll do a demonstration video of this pedal board. But I'll find a different way to do this another time. Because basically, I have my main pedal board, my big one that you guys have all seen me gig with. Essentially, that's what I tried to create with this smaller board. Is how can I do that with mini pedals and the ability to go direct with it? And it's good and it's versatile. And I think the Radial DI sounds great. Just not with this interface doing it this way. I think it's lacking something. It needs to be warmed up in a particular way. And there are cool ways to do that. And beyond that, I also have recently acquired the Line 6 HX Stomp. And it's taken me a year to figure out how I wanted to program it because it does so many different things, so many different ways. It's a really powerful piece of kit. That would probably be better for this. Because of all the speaker emulation and stuff that it does. And it is its own audio interface, so I can use that a bunch of different ways. But obviously, if I'm going to talk, I need to be able to get my voice into that stuff too. So that may be the way to go. I may mess with that. And then I have my Universal Audio aux amp top box, which is a great load box that allows me to use any of my tube heads and be able to record direct with them. And it sounds fantastic. It's one of the best sounding things I've come across for recording if you don't have the room to mic up proper things. Oh, thank you. Hello, Nepal, man. So good to hear from you, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, like there's so many crazy things. I just kind of want to figure it out. And if the right thing ends up being just, at least for these second cup situation things, if this is just me sitting on the couch with my guitar, playing a little bit and then talking a little bit while I drink a cup of coffee early in the day, if I can find a cool way to do that with my iPhone, like Tom Bukovac or somebody like that, where, I don't think this is all about, this needs to be record release quality, just needs to be putting out some content and having some fun with this stuff. And, if hopefully with the playing stuff, I'm hoping it'll engender a little bit of, talk about some lesson stuff too, because really that's the thing. As much as I would like to make tips, I think that's great for anybody that wants to donate money in that kind of way. That's cool. But really, I think this is a better thing for just letting people know they can buy my music. It's out there, and there's a way to do that. It doesn't have to be in physical format. I actually got asked this by a couple of people in the last few weeks. I am 100% out of physical copies of 2 of 5. It has been out of print for a couple of years now. And I don't know when I'm going to put it back into print. Because unfortunately, any of you guys know, if you're making records, it costs money to do a printing. And I've been so focused on, whatever the costs are going to be for finishing my next record. And I want that to be great. That's going to be a way that I have to move. So I don't know. Maybe everything just stays online. Maybe the time is just to be mature about this stuff. That I don't listen to CDs. As a matter of fact, I bought. This is funny. I'll leave you with this little story because, like, I try to think about stuff. I kind of want to know how everybody's consuming stuff, but then when I think about the way that I consume stuff, and it may just be a function of my age and where I am in my career. When I was younger, I listened to music obsessively. And then as I got older and I got to writing more, I listened to music for different reasons. I started listening for more production value, for songwriting stuff, not just the guitar stuff to learn that. Um, in any case, um, as I got an iPod, that became a new way to consume music. And I got interested in listening to all kinds of records again that I wasn't listening to because I'd been writing so much. And it, like, I don't know, there was just a period of time where I had a CD player in my car and I would drive around to work and be in between gigs in the late 90s and the early 2000s, all through college, where I was really bad about swapping out the CDs in my car. So, like, whatever I was listening to is what I was listening to. And if I got a new CD, it would stay in the car. That would be the thing. And then I would get really bored of listening to music. And I remember one time I drove up to my dad's house in New Hampshire. I was driving a 1994 Ford Escort station wagon when I still had that thing. And I had my little CD player with the cassette adapter plugged into that thing. Drove all the way from Atlanta to New Hampshire without stopping. I didn't stop for hotel rooms or anything. I was younger and I had a pretty good raging caffeine habit. It was more than a second cup. I don't think I listened to one record the whole drive up and the whole drive back. And I had bought some records for that drive. Maybe there was a new Satriani record that had just come out right around then. I think I had that in the car. I may have listened to that one time. And then for the rest of that drive, which is a long drive, I didn't listen to anything. I just enjoyed the silence and just the sound of the road and my thoughts and that kind of stuff. So I'm not really good at listening on stuff. Charlie, thank you, man. So good to see you, man. Be good, be safe, keep love to the family, and keep staying healthy. And all that stuff. And let me know any more recording stuff. Like, hit me up if I can help you answer some questions. Let me know. Just shoot me a text or through whatever the social medias, the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, because they all have definite articles and are plural at this point. Yeah, hopefully we'll figure out some jam situations too, or maybe there'll be a cool way. I have Zoom. I don't really know how to use it. I'm not using the paid account, so I know there are limitations on all of that stuff. But it would be cool to, like, even do some virtual hangs that maybe I can turn into another section of my YouTube channel where it's like, hey, these are my friends, and get a few people to come on and hang, and we can do some evening. Even if we can't play, we can at least do some reminiscing and catching up online and share a little bit of that joy with everybody who cares to watch that stuff. So it's a great way to let people get to know more about me is through, the people that are my family and friends that I love so much. And I love you guys so much and miss you guys like crazy. Like, it's been a long time. Like, Paul, I haven't seen you since the Masquerade for that show. Charlie, God, I don't remember the last time I saw you. It's been a hot minute. Probably would have been up at that place in Roswell that we were doing that jam at for a minute. That place is probably going to be going away. Like, writing was kind of on the wall for that place before I stopped working there anyway. And now all this has happened. I don't think the owners really had their stuff together before all of this stuff. 100% of all the venues that should not survive. Not that anybody should fail, but they were kind of doing a bunch of things wrong anyway. And hadn't quite figured it out. I don't think they're going to survive this, not as a music venue anyway. Maybe they'll figure out some other kind of business as an event space, but definitely not as a live music venue, which is too bad because it was a cool little room. So yeah, we'll figure out some stuff like that and just keep. This is a whole new world. We're just trying to figure it out. So anyway, yeah, thank you to everybody who has watched the first episode 1 of The Second Cup with Mike. And it's been about an hour, so my second cup is cold, and I didn't play a whole lot. And I promise on the next one we'll do a little bit more playing, and I'll actually announce them when I'm going to go live and all of that stuff, so that you can time it, because I kind of want to be a little bit loose with this, but then again, a regular time that's predictable, or at least to know when to look out for it, will probably be good. And I'll leave these up online so you'll be able to watch them afterward. So anyway, yeah, hopefully it won't be so late in the day too. I won't be so lazy and sleep until noon Eastern time. Maybe I'll actually get up at a reasonable hour, or something like that. I don't know. It's all just about when I get to that second cup of coffee. Um, Coffee, tea, water is good. I like water. I could have water in here. You don't know. I think everybody that knows me knows I'm a coffee addict, so it's pretty safe to assume there's coffee in here. Could have been whiskey. It's not 5 o'clock here, but it could be 5 o'clock someplace. So that's a possibility as well. That coffee is not warm anymore. So anyway, this is the second cup idea. For anybody watching this, thank you who's watched it live. Charlie, Paul, Fernando, so good to see you guys. Thanks for joining in on the chat. For anybody watching this afterwards, please leave a comment down below to let me know what you thought about this. And I apologize for the bad guitar audio. I will definitely be remedying that before the next one. But let me know what kind of stuff that you thought worked about this, what doesn't work about this, time of day kind of thing. Just looking for an opportunity to hold myself accountable and do a little bit of playing online. That's not necessarily hey, this is a concert, but stay active with everyone and see what everybody's up to, and just spread a little light into this world that we're all going through right now. So yeah, if you are so inclined to support my culture, there's a bunch of things that you can do. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can like this video, because apparently there's an algorithm. I'm not a YouTuber, though I've had this YouTube channel for a while, and I just use it for whatever stuff that I do. I don't know, maybe this whole world situation is going to push me into finally becoming a YouTuber. I don't know. But I know for the world of YouTube, it is important to have subscribers, views on this channel. So please share this with anybody you think might be finding this information and stuff kind of entertaining and informative. And then there is a like button. Please hit that. Engagement is good, as well as commenting in the comment section. All of that engagement is very helpful with all of this stuff. My channel used to be monetized a few years ago, and then I've kind of slocked off with all of my content. So I'll have some work to do to get it back to a monetized channel, which obviously will be good for helping me maintain my livelihood as a musician. So if you feel so inclined, please do any and all of those things. Invite your friends to subscribe to this channel as well. In the links below, you can see all of the stuff that is going on. My main website is down. Adam Fox and I are working on that right now. We're going to have that back up and interesting very soon. That is on my list of things to do that I have been slacking on. So holding myself accountable for that. MikeMartin.net is the website, but it is down at the moment. It will be back up soon. I am on Facebook at Mike205Martin, Instagram at Mike205Martin. All of that stuff. I think all of my links are available on my description of my channel. I don't even know how this stuff works. I'm really bad at this stuff. I feel like this is the infotainment commercial part of this, and I'm terrible at it. So I hope I don't ever get good at it. So yeah, check out all that stuff. Look at the gear that I used for this. And this was a bad demonstration of how good this pedal board actually sounds in a working environment. I will figure that stuff out so that you guys can learn how good this stuff is. Because actually, that Suhr Riot distortion pedal and this Rufus fuzz pedal really kind of light me up when I'm sitting around playing it. And that's really the reason that I decided to do this, because I was having so much fun just doing that stuff. So I will figure that out, I promise. So my apologies if you're watching this and you were hoping to get a good demonstration of what those pedals sound like. That's my bad, not these pedals. I just don't know how the internet works, apparently. So there's that. If you're interested in lessons, hit me up in the comments or with a direct message or any of that stuff, and I will send you some information. I teach over Skype and Zoom and FaceTime and all of that stuff. So I can help you out with that stuff. Theory lessons, yada, yada, yada. What everybody does. I'm really bad at this stuff. Also, if you would like to donate, my Cash App link, Venmo link, and PayPal link are all in the description below. And I kindly appreciate your generosity in any of and all of those things. Definitely not not pushing that stuff on anybody, but leaving it there because I know people do want to help out musicians in need at this time. So I greatly appreciate that if you are so inclined to do such a thing. So thank you. And yeah, this has been fun. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I'm smarter than this. I just kind of set it up this morning and did it. So there you go. For tomorrow, if I do this tomorrow, I will, I don't know, since it's set up now, maybe it'll already be set up and I'll have the rest of the evening to futz around with this and figure out the right way to do this. And maybe it's just not with this pedal board this particular way, but I will figure it out because I have time on my hands to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, tip, lessons. You can also, what else is in there? What else I put in the description? iTunes. You can buy my music on iTunes. One thing I didn't put up was Spotify links where you can stream all the stuff. You can stream it on Apple Music and all that stuff. I don't make money off of streaming. You can also stream all of my music right here on my YouTube channel. Everything that I've put out is available on my YouTube channel. That's more views for my channel. That's all good for me. So you can share those links around too. So that's always good for me as well. So, all right. I think I've spent way too much time talking about all the things that YouTubers actually do a whole lot better than I do. So there you go. Leave me a comment about how bad I did with this. I know everybody on the internet has opinions, and I'm welcoming them. Sling your arrows, throw your rocks. I can take it. And I will improve. This is how we learn. We fall down, we get back up. We fail, we correct. So I think I have everything I need to do this well. This just wasn't it. So thank you guys for joining me on my first episode of The Second Cup. And stay well, stay healthy. And I will see you on the next one soon. All right, cheers.